Bugs crashing your pack's party? Whether they've got paws or sneakers, your pack deserves a home that's protected from pests. That's where Wondercide comes in. Plant-powered protection made with steam-distilled natural essential oils that actually work. It kills and repels fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, and ants without questionable ingredients or overpowering smells. Safe to use around kids and pets when used as directed, lab-proven to work fast, and proudly made in the USA. We offer sprays for pets, people, homes, and yards. Plus, spot-on treatments, collars, and even shampoos. Whatever your pack needs, we've got it covered. Founded by a pet parent looking for a better way to protect her dog Luna, Wondercide's now protected over 21 million lives and counting. You might have even seen us on Shark Tank. Go to Wondercide.com and use code WONDER20 for 20% off your first order. That's WONDER20 at Wondercide.com. Wondercide. Protect your pack with plant-powered Wondercide today.
Have you ever wanted to dive deeper into the horror movies you love? Beyond the Blood is a horror podcast for fans who want more than just surface-level screams. We do deep dives into the movies that shaped us, digging into director commentaries, behind-the-scenes stories, deleted scenes, and the special features that most people skip. Each episode is a love letter to the genre. We break down how these films were made, the creative risks that paid off or didn't, and the lasting impact they've had on the genre as a whole. From 70s slashers to modern nightmares, we celebrate the craft, chaos, and characters that keep us coming back. If you're the kind of fan who rewatches movies with the commentary on, or you simply grew up in the video store horror aisle, the Beyond the Blood podcast was made for you. New episodes every single week. Subscribe, and let's dig deep. Welcome to the Beyond the Blood podcast.
We're in Way Media. Welcome back to Father Malone's Weekly Roundup. I'm that guy, that fella, that fake priest. But there's nothing counterfeit about my co-host. She's all canine. Say hello, Ripley G. I know, we have housekeeping to do, a lot of housekeeping to do. First up, thank you all for listening and sharing the show. If you haven't, please do so. Any interaction helps to learn them frickin' robots who are in charge now that they can maybe spread the wealth around and get other people to listen. So please share and give us a whole bunch of stars and say a bunch of nice things and then tell your friends to listen too. You know they want to. And you know it's nice to share. Be nice. It's the time of year. Speaking of which, I keep calling out our UK listeners to hit me up with emails or such, but I want to hear from all of you. Me and Ripley are desert rats, broadcasting to you from atop the KAB Lighthouse in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. Why do we need a lighthouse? Because we need a lighthouse. I'm Father Malone. The fog? What's the fog? I guess we know what our topic is going to be next week, Midnight viewers. We're going to be talking John Carpenter's The Fog. Now, as I was saying, we want to hear from any and all of you, no matter where you are on the globe. Let us know what you like and what you don't. Not so much that one. If you're listening in what you consider the opposite of our hometown, let us know what it's like. You're as much part of the show as me or Ripley. You're right, as much as me. And finally, I know, well, you got to do a lot of begging when you're a one-man show. Even if you edited this, it'd still be a one-man show. You're a dog. If you want to hear any of these episodes early and commercial-free, head over to patreon.com/FatherMalone. Subscribers get all that good stuff, and we'll be starting this week get our first Patreon-only show, Cable Box Theater. That's where Night Mr. Walters host and Midnight Viewing composer HP and I sit down and discuss the late 70s and early 80s phenomenon of film-to-tape versions of Broadway shows that used to run on fledgling cable networks like HBO and Showtime. Early cable had a lot of hours and not a lot to fill them. In fact, the inaugural episode will be appearing this Friday as a taste. Just a brief touch to the tongue of Cable Box Theater. Okay, I think we're done with housekeeping, but the place setting continues because the last part of the show today, the second and final review, that's right, only 2 topics this week, is going to be a crossover with fellow Midnight Viewing hosts Chris Stachiw and Mike White's respective podcasts. That's right, it's a Midnight Viewing Kulturecast projection booth 3-way as we wade into the Sony Marvel universe. The SMOO, the last, so they claim, of the Sony-verse. Goodbye, Madam Web. Farewell, many Spider-Men. Adieu, Dane DeCook. So that's going to be coming up next. And we like to theme around these here parts, so we've got Kraven the Hunter. What pairs well with a villain portrayed inexplicably as a hero all of a sudden? The natural choice is Don't Breathe Part 2. But that motherfucker was a rapist, and I didn't bother to watch that sequel where the rapist is now the hero. Listen, I'm a fucking fool for heroes and villains switching allegiance during the course of a narrative or film to film, but as it turns out, the nature of the villainy matters. A turkey baster to you, Stephen Lang. So we're going to keep it in the comic book world. Here's a villain who's a hero simultaneously. This one's a Marvel fella whom I've loved since the 1970s. That's when he was born in Marvel Spotlight number 5. He's had lots of iterations. It's a mantle, not a person. You 90s kids know him as Danny Ketch. If you caught him in the teens, Robbie Reyes took over that flaming skull, and he drives a car. How do you like that? Yeah, I'm a bit iffy on it too, but I like Robbie. He's the spirit of vengeance, the fallen angel. Really, his name is Zarathos. At least it was. I haven't read it in a while. I love him best when he took over Johnny Blaze and became Ghost Rider.
Johnny Blaze, no one has ever attempted such a distance before. 300 feet from field goal to field goal. What's going through your mind right now?
You look really good. I got lucky.
Luck don't cover it, JB. You got an angel looking after you.
Maybe it's something else.
All you have to do is sigh.
Forget about family. Forget about friends. Forget about love.
You will be the rider for as long as you live.
I'm not doing it. You have no choice.
Story goes that he'll be normal during the day, but at night, in the presence of evil, the rider takes over.
You deserve a second chance.
Blackheart's coming to create hell on Earth, and you have the power he needs. Stay away from anybody he can use against him.
Roxanne,
Don't you care about me at all?
you have to leave now.
I'm not going anywhere.
Any man who sells his soul for love has the power to change the world.
I can smell your fear. I'm gonna take this curse and use it against you.
We have this rat shopper. It was all flames and stuff. His face was a skull, and it was on fire.
On fire.
Like,
Looking for someone.
I'm the only one who can walk in both worlds. I'm Ghost Rider.
You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. I feel like my skull's on fire, but I'm good.
What the fuck is this? I won't say that was the only thought going through my head during the entirety of this film, but it ain't far off. And I wanted to love this movie. Ghost Rider with Nicolas Cage, Peter Fonda, Donald Logue, Wes Bentley, and Eva Mendes before Gosling spirited her away to whatever magic fairyland he was hatched in. All of these things were positive, so sincerely, what the fuck? Well, I'll tell you. Dimension Films released Blade back in '96, and feeling all high on that blood-sucking success, they got the rights to Ghost Rider. And because David Goyer wrote Blade, he wrote the first draft of Ghost Rider. I've read it. I'm not saying I prefer the movie we got, but I'm glad they didn't make Goyer's draft, although they kind of did when they made the sequel. Goyer's script is basically The Crow. He took the exact framework of The Crow and bladed it up and added a motorcycle. At that point, it was Blade director Stephen Norrington who was attached. Goyer would be replaced by Armageddon scribe Shane Salerno, at which point Johnny Depp was going to be Johnny Blaze. Then Dimension got cold feet, probably because of those terrible scripts, at which point Columbia, high off their own recent triumphs with Spider-Man, figured they could recreate the magic of those films, and who better to do it than the director of Grumpy Old Men. To be fair, he did also direct Grumpier Old Men and Daredevil, which has its proponents. I think that movie is fun in a few scenes and has a fucking killer performance by Colin Farrell as Bullseye, but it is mostly unmemorable. Mark Steven Johnson is given Ghost Rider and carte blanche, really. Now, there are some definite improvements in his script to the previous drafts. For instance, Johnny Blaze rides at the carnival. Goyer had him as a low-level thief, which is gross. But whereas he put the history of the Blaze family and the Quentin Carnival and Mephisto on screen as it was in the comic, hell, he even pulled in Carter Slade, who was the Ghost Rider before Ghost Rider. But he stumbles when it comes to the rider himself. Like I said, Ghost Rider has had a lot of iterations over the years. Johnson fell in love with the bounty hunting aspect of him, particularly with its connection to the Old West, thus Carter Slade. So he wants to have an otherworldly Western with motorcycles, which I'm totally down with. And given Johnson's association with Daredevil, who is the most Catholic superhero ever, I figured he'd lean into what sets Ghost Rider apart from probably all superheroes. For all the flaming chains and riding up buildings, he's a character whose real powers are based on sin. His most famous move is the penance stare, where he makes a sinner experience all the pain they've caused over the course of their lives. He can cleanse a soul, he can eat a soul, he can eat sin, making him a sin eater. What's up, Jasmine? Midnight Viewing's Welsh correspondent. Some of those powers are featured passingly. Johnson isn't interested in the battle for souls and the manipulation of the human race, and who gets to decide who's worthy of paradise. He wants CG water people fighting Flaming Skullman. And I'll say it again, it's a real drag. I'd even be willing to put aside the mixing and matching of the supernatural worlds and faiths, where we've got traditional biblical fallen angels and demons mixing with villains based on the water, fire, earth elements. It's not a salad bar, Johnson. Because of this budget, with these characters and this cast, it could have been magnificent. It should have been magnificent. Wes Bentley is beautiful, and he's a totally worthy embodiment of frequent Ghost Rider antagonist Blackheart. Eva Mendes does what she can with Roxanne. Everybody's doing a great job. Well, not quite everyone. Is there anyone who can say no to Nicolas Cage? I mean, creatively. Is everyone so jazzed to be working with him that they just go along with whatever kooky shit he comes up with? We've talked about him here when we looked at that film, Plastic Surgery Victim Buffalo Bill. Was that the title? The Faint Echo of the Lambs. That's a good one. You're getting a treat. I love Nick Cage. I really do. He's terrible here. We know he loves comics. We know he can do the gig. I was looking forward to that Superman movie. I'm looking forward to the noir Spider-Man series. But he ain't Johnny Blaze. You know how I know? Because if he was, he would have put aside his action movie habit of giving his character an absurd hobby or fixation. It was the Beatles in The Rock, which had absolutely no bearing on the film. Was there even a Beatles song featured? And here, Johnny Blaze, who sold his soul to Mephisto and agreed to be his enforcer, well, he just loves jelly beans. Oh, and if he can sip them from an oversized martini glass, all the more whimsy. You old scamp, Johnny Blaze, who knows what brimstone smells like because it pours from the flames that engulf his disembodied skull. He loves them jelly beans. Yeah, I know, this is Nicolas Cage's idea of how Johnny Blaze is on the wagon. He no longer imbibes, he just loves going through the motions with jelly beans. Yeah, he wouldn't want to get drunk. That might interfere with his nighttime transformation into a flaming motorcycle chain-wielding demon that sees into the souls to determine whether or not you're worthy of punishment. Wouldn't want to get tipsy. No. Jelly beans. The CG was not great then, it's laughable now. Here's a sign that it was filmed in Australia. Rebel Wilson is a bystander interviewed about Ghost Rider. The music is poor, and I sense that Johnson only took the job because he imagined the credits rolling and the nail-on-the-head song choice of Ghost Riders in the Sky playing. Only the lamest cover will do. There was a sequel. A lot of people consider it an improvement. They are wrong. It's a great effects reel. It's by Neville Dean Taylor, who did the Crank films, which are good, and Jonah Hex, which is garbage. Marvel got the rights back to Ghost Rider. So far, all we've gotten is Robbie Reyes showing up on that terrible Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show. So where the fuck is he now? Ghost Rider, I mean. Any of them. Sincerely. We want Blade. We want the Rider. We want Dracula and Mephisto. Don't make me do another completely ineffective, changing no one's mind at all podcast, because I'll do it. What's your point? You're not getting a pick this week. I'm sorry, but you're not. I'll tell you what. We're going to the next segment, and we'll make it a rip pick, okay? You chose Kraven the Hunter.
Come and listen to a dog that's hip. Here we go. It's Rip Picks, yeah!
Welcome to the Projection Booth. I'm your host, Mike White. Joining me, of course, is Mr. Chris Stachiw.
I prefer to be known as Kraven Moorhead.
Also on this episode is the one and only Father Malone.
My grandmother died, and then I never saw her again.
On this episode, it's a very special crossover with the Kulturecast and Midnight Viewing. We're talking about Kraven the Hunter. I am Kraven some Kraven from 2024, directed by J.C. Chandor, written by a whole bunch of people here. We've got Richard Wenk and A&D, Art Markham, ampersand Matt Holloway, all taking a swipe at this script. It is all about Kraven, the titular Kraven, Sergei Kravinoff, aka Kraven the Hunter, and his complex relationship with his ruthless father, Nikolai Kravinoff, who's played by the one and only Russell Crowe.
Russian Crowe.
Yeah, Russian Crowe. And just how he became Kraven through magic and all kinds of stuff. We will be spoiling this film, so if you don't want anything ruined, please turn off the podcast and come back after you've gone to the theater, maybe rented this on video, streamed it on wherever, and we will still be here. So Chris, what did you think of Kraven the Hunter?
I am so disappointed that you guys made me watch this movie. This is one of the most unintelligible pieces of shit I have seen in a very long time. It was, let me put it this way. If you've kept up with the news and the information that's been coming out about the movie since kind of its release or leading up to its release, this is the last Spider-Verse Sony movie. That's it. There's nothing else. This is the last one. And good fucking riddance, because this movie is borderline unintelligible if it's not just completely unintelligible. I don't understand why Aaron Taylor Johnson is in this movie, other than if it was the Dakota Johnson of it all, where it's like, I need money. I like money. Give me money and I'll play Kraven. Because I can't imagine he read this script and went, wow, what a real piece of scenery. What scene chewing, what scene stealing I'm going to be doing is Kraven the Hunter. I was not surprised that it was quite terrible. However, I will say, on the scale of things, it somehow still manages to be better than Madam Web. That is damning it with the faintest of faint praise. But for me, this movie was at times laughably bad. I can't believe that the movie was 2 fucking hours long on top of everything else, as if we needed to be bombarded with 2 hours of this nonsense. But I did not enjoy it. It was a slog. And in my closing opening statements, if Aaron Taylor Johnson is in fact cast as James Bond, that's all I'm going to say, because I'm not looking forward to that if that is in fact going to end up being the case. So there's my early opening salvo and, as they say, manifesto about Kraven the Hunter. What about you, Father Malone?
I liked it. I thought it's of the Sony spin-off movies, of the Sony movies that aren't directly Spider-Man movies, I think it's the best of them. I enjoyed it more than any of the Venom movies, 3 of those fuckers. Certainly more than Madam Web. What else did we have? They did one more, right?
Morbius.
It's Morbin time, baby.
It's Morbin time.
Okay. Yeah.
Morbius was way more fun than this movie.
No.
Way more. Yes. No. Oh, yes. This movie took itself way too seriously.
Right, I agree, and I appreciated that about it because Morbius took itself just as seriously. It's just that it was fucking terrible, and if any joy you got from that movie was making fun of it, this is a more complete story. Look, my problems with this movie are as a fan of Marvel Comics who remember Kraven being one thing, a villain, and a pretty good villain at that, to turning him directly into a fucking superhero. Because the story is effectively the same here. We get Kraven, we get the look, they kind of retconned him in the early 80s, J.M. DeMatteis. When he took over Kraven, he retconned a lot of the Russian heritage and stuff. We get Kraven, we get his dad, we get his brother, who is the chameleon, who is the first Spider-Man villain. We get a lot of what's really right about Kraven, but at the same time, he's noble and doing all the right things. So the problem with these Sinister Six type spin-off movies that they've been attempting is that they never give us the actual fucking villain as a character. But compared to all the Venoms and the Morbiuses and stuff, as a story of a family and this weird superhero kind of world that they're plucked into, I enjoyed it. Because I don't know what to tell you. I like that they had Calypso in here, who's his love interest from the comics, and I actually think they did her character better than they did in the comics. I don't think it was great. I think this movie needed to come out 6 years ago, and then there would have been some hope for the Sony universe. Then it would have felt like they were building towards something. I think there's a lot of superfluous stuff in this movie. I don't think it's the best by any means. This is not a great movie, but comparatively speaking, had a good time.
I will say, you've said it and I've said it before, and I think Mike will probably echo it as well. The fact that these movies are coming out in 2024 is wild to me. These movies feel like they should have been coming out in the mid-10s, if not the late 2000s. Like, this style of making superhero movies is not a thing anymore, and I hope they realize it, because they're not getting any further with any of this.
Sony is like country music. It's always sort of 10 years behind the times. Like, country gets poppy eventually. Now country's getting a bit hip hoppy. And so it's always a little 10. So Sony's just like, oh, we figured out actually how to do a superhero movie. Too late.
Yeah, I've been hearing that this is doing so well that they might actually continue the Spider-Verse that they're trying to do over here. I would say this might be the best of the lot for me, and that includes those Spider-Man movies, because I fucking hated those things, man. Oh, God. Could not stand those. And I'm so glad that they're not coming out with any more of those. I don't care what happened to Peter Parker's parents. I don't care about the Sinister Six.
Oh, you're talking about the Andrew Garfield stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's all part of this, right? This is all Sony. Like, that was Sony's, we got to make a Spider-Man movie or else we'll lose the rights kind of thing.
This is part of the MCU.
Well, this is the Sonyverse.
It is the Sonyverse, Mike, but I think
But it is the MCU.
Once the MCU got a hold of Spider-Man, I think Sony was doing a wait and see kind of thing. By then, they had released Andrew Garfield, and I think they thought they were going to have a trading situation where they were going to get Tom Holland every other movie instead of 5 movies in a row for Marvel.
Right. Yeah, which would be fine. It is just so strange to go about this through the villains rather than through the heroes and put together this whole collection of villains, because you're right, it's odd that Kraven is a hero in this, and I don't know what's going to suddenly turn him into a villain other than his intense fear of spiders, I suppose. Yeah, that was
spiders
odd.
that look like men.
That could be.
That's the next logical step of his hallucinatory fear that is somehow genetically passed down by his insane mother.
Right. Yes, the fear that his mother had is the same fear that he has too, which, okay. But yeah, I didn't mind this one at all. If anything, I was like, okay, I can see myself watching this again. No problem. It's kind of like those first 2 Venom films, especially the first one. I wouldn't go back to Carnage, but the first Venom film I've watched quite a few times. I think this is heads and shoulders above anything that comes close to Madam Web. I mean, that was just a shit show. Horrible acting, horrible everything. Just the way that the whole story was put together was really bad. Still don't know why it needed to be a period piece, other than that Madam Web is super old in the comics and we needed to set this back in the Peter Parker being born 80s kind of thing. I don't know. But yeah, I kind of enjoyed it. I was really glad to see Alessandro Nivola. I kept watching him through the whole movie going, is that Pollux Troy? That looks like Pollux Troy. And just that low talking that he did as Alexis, whatever, Rhino. I was like, okay, yeah, this is pretty cool. The Foreigner, I don't know. He was just more of an annoyance to me than anything, but was an okay villain, and I was glad when he died. I applauded when he died.
Yeah, they needed the Foreigner. See, what we're talking about here is Sony owning everything that came out of the Spider-Man books. Basically, if it originated there, they get to use it. Unfortunately, there's only one decent hero to emerge from Spider-Man, and that's fucking Spider-Man. So they're left with these villains, and I think it's a good idea to give us these spin-offs. I want to see a Sinister Six movie. It's really easy to do that. You just make a villain worse than them. Bob's your uncle, but they have to be villains to begin with, or what's the fucking point of this? Because we're not going to buy the turn when they have to finally turn against Spider-Man. They're going to have to concoct some bullshit like they're fucking mystically controlled or some nonsense. But I can't see this Kraven, no matter how badly he fears whatever, going after Spider-Man the way he does in the books.
It reminded me a lot of the Scorpion King. When I watched that movie, I'm like, how is he the bad guy in The Mummy Returns? Like, what? When we were walking out of the movie theater, we saw the poster for the movie and it says, heroes aren't born, they're made. Or villains aren't born, they're made. And it's like, yes, Kraven is a villain, but not in this movie. Kraven is a villain, but not in this telling of the story. Kraven is the character in the, I think to your point, Father Malone, the worst sin of this movie is the fact that it does not understand the character of Kraven at all. It has taken the character of Kraven and done something to him that I think is Wolverine-esque, is what it feels like. Like, oh, we don't have access to Wolverine, so we'll just kind of make a Wolverine movie without Wolverine. And that's kind of what it reminded me of, like an R-rated, like Logan, essentially. But, if Logan was made by less capable people, though I'm not sure I would put James Mangold in a camp of capable people, given the amazing work he turned in with such classics like Dial of Destiny.
Well, it's better than X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Oh, boy. Yeah,
that is the damningest of faint praise.
Well, it's still a better movie than that.
I agree. I agree with you there.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing a sequel to this to see how Kraven goes after his brother, and I was glad the way that they slow built Chameleon. I mean, they kind of handed it to us at one point when he's singing like Tony Bennett, and his dad's like, "Oh, he's a chameleon." I was like, okay. I mean,
come on, Russell.
The whole Russian thing, and I'm so glad that they were like, oh yeah, these kids were raised in America, so it doesn't have to be Aaron Taylor Johnson putting on his whole Sokovian accent.
Oh, is it the Quicksilver again?
Oh my God, I was just like, please, no, I don't need that, because I mean, Age of Ultron for me is one of the worst Marvel films that has been made, just because they didn't understand what the hell to do with that thing. But once he started to speak with an American accent, I was like, oh, thank God, I'm much happier.
Yeah, and speaking to the James Bond of it all, whenever his name got mentioned, I thought, well, that's a terrible idea. Honestly, watching this movie, I thought, oh no, I get it. I could see him as it.
Yeah, same thing. I said the exact same thing to Chris yesterday, especially when he's like all dappered up and in London, and he's got his brother's jacket on. I'm just like, look at this dapper motherfucker. This guy could be Bond.
And you mentioned like the family thing where they kind of build in that we get the chameleon by the end. Like I would like a sequel. That did feel natural. Like I enjoyed the dynamics in this family, all the while dealing with the external threat, which is ostensibly Nivola as the Rhino. The effects for Rhino are a little bit ropey, not that great during that final sequence, but I gotta say, it reminded me that as a child, I religiously watched that Spider-Man cartoon. Yeah, that's the Spider-Man. That's where that where that song came from. And the Rhino was always my favorite character on that show. I just thought he was the fucking coolest. So I like that we got him, and it wasn't a giant fucking robot with Paul Giamatti inside.
him doing a horrible Russian accent in that role.
Ooh. Over the top, over the planet.
Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting that they name checked Miles Warren, and I was just like, oh man, I know that name. And it took me a little while to realize that he was the Jackal. And I was like, oh fuck, are they gonna build in the clone story to this thing? I hope not, because that's probably the worst thing that ever happened to Spider-Man was the whole idea
What,
of him
Ben
being,
Reilly?
oh yeah, Ben Reilly, and I mean, because there's more than just him, right? Aren't there more clones of Spider-Man? Oh Jesus!
But I gotta say, teasing the Jackal was pretty cool. At having him be like a genetic splicing kind of a guy who,
right?
You know, because let's face it, most of Spider-Man's villains are based on animals, so we might as well have someone pulling all those strings.
Well, it also is so much better that Rhino is a genetic thing. And I like the medicine that keeps him from transforming and talking about the pain that it causes when he transforms. A little bit smarter than the original Rhino, who I think was he got stuck in the suit. Like something happened and he's never going to leave that suit. And I'm like, man, that suit's got to stink.
Yeah, exactly. Like Black Mask's mask just fused to his skull at that point.
I think when it came to Alessandro Nivola, who, I mean, I think he's a great actor. I mean, Jurassic Park 3, come on. He also played Michael Imperioli's father in the Many Saints of Newark, the Sopranos prequel. He's good. I wish they gave him more to do, because it seems like they gave most of everything to Russell Crowe.
It's Russell Crowe, and you got to give him everything to do.
Yeah, like Russell Crowe. Is it just me, or does it feel like we've gotten a glut of things with Russell Crowe in them all of a sudden?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Gladiator 2. Oh, wait, no.
Oops. Well, there's that Netflix movie where he's like a psycho driver that's supposedly pretty good, and then he was in The Exorcism, and then he was in
a movie about a making of an exorcism. Yeah,
right.
Well, that was The Exorcism, and then the other one was
The Last Exorcist or something.
Yes, The Pope's Exorcist,
which was a hoot, by the way.
Which was great. Yeah, The Pope's Exorcist was a lot of fun. I'm super excited to see a sequel to that movie. Russell Crowe kind of steals the show, and that's too bad, because I mean, again, to go back to what I was saying earlier, like, Aaron Taylor Johnson is just one of those actors I don't get. I haven't understood it since Godzilla. I kind of got it when he was playing Kick-Ass. He was in Shanghai Nights as Charlie Chaplin many moons ago. Yeah, he played child Charlie Chaplin in Shanghai Nights. That was like one of his first acting roles. He was like a child. For me, he's like Sam Worthington and Joel Kinnaman, and
I like Joel Kinnaman. Do not compare them to that other fucker.
Okay, how's this? Sam Worthington, Jai Courtney.
Yeah, I get those two being lumped into the same category, and I kind of see Aaron Taylor Johnson, depending on the role, falling into that as well. But at the same time, you mentioned a couple where he's good, and I think he's really good here.
Yeah, I think he's really good in Bullet Train. I really like him in that one. I'm curious to see him in this Nosferatu. He's supposed to be in that as well, so curious. And he was okay in the Kingsman as well. Kingsman, sorry.
That's right.
And apparently he was in Tenet, but I have pretty much no memory of that movie, which I'm really glad for, because that was so awful.
Can I mention one weird thing in this movie? The movie starts with a prison break sequence in Russia, like in a gulag. But
I kept waiting for what's his name from the Crimson Commando. I kept thinking of the prison break scene in Black Widow. I was just like, oh boy.
But while the production logos are going, and what is effectively the credit sequence, the theme music from The Hunt for Red October is playing.
Yes, thank you. Andrea was like, what is that music? And I was like, and sleep shall bring new hope. Yeah.
I was an usher at a movie theater playing The Hunt for Red October. I know that music intimately.
That's a wonderful wonder. And the end of the movie with it's so good. And yeah, when that music comes up, da-da-dun, 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 it was a great movie to clean the theater to.
It absolutely was. So this movie starts and I'm like, what? No, what? No. And yet, I mean, I get it. It's like it's a Columbia or Sony property so they can get away with it. But just use the Russian national anthem. Just use any. Don't. That was weird. It was a weird way to start.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I had totally forgotten about it. But yes, as soon as that music started, I was like, I know this. And yeah, Andrew's like, what is this? This is familiar to me. Yeah, that was wild. And yeah, I just kept thinking of like, well, all the Prison Break movies, but especially thinking of Black Widow breaking her father out of prison. I was just like, is he in that same jail? Or because there was also Prison Break in one of the Mission Impossibles that I think was also in a Russian prison. And I was like, all right, waiting for like, okay, open up this door, open up this door. But instead, as soon as he starts like crawling around on the walls, I was like, oh, okay, this guy, it's not just strength, it's also this crawling and jumping ability. So, all right, I guess that stuff that Calypso gives him is almost like super soldier serum.
So clearly defined were his superpowers in this movie, right?
I think they seem pretty defined, actually. He doesn't necessarily commune with animals, but he has their powers and can sort of catch their drift. He's also super strength and super agility.
Yeah, a very Beastmaster. I kept waiting for like there's one part where like a hawk is tapping on the glass window, and I was just like, oh, he's gonna see through the hawk's eyes, but no, he doesn't.
In the comic, that serum that Calypso gives him is basically like a super soldier serum, like the Wakandan herb. But here they kind of use it like resurrection juice, and it has a side effect of the strength and the connection to nature.
Yeah, I found it interesting the way that they did the opening and then going back in time and showing his origin story. And speaking of Russell Crowe, there are a couple times like when the lion attacks him and is carrying him across the savannah, there's a shot where his hand is hanging and it's like brushing all this fauna. And I just kept thinking of that shot of Russell Crowe when he's touching the heads of the stalks of wheat. And I was like, I wonder if they're doing this as a little homage to Russell Crowe.
In Gladiator, you mean?
Yeah, a little Gladiator.
Yeah.
The violence in this movie, there's a particular sequence where he's taking out all of Rhino's men in the forest, which is incredibly bloody and kind of fantastic. Honestly, it's a very Rambo section of this movie. Not to hammer this, but we're gonna have him acting this way, but we're not going to make him a villain. Just
right.
Make him can't you just give him like a danger diabolic kind of thing where he just gets off breaking the rules? Like just make him wanted for something other than doing something noble. Because when we start this movie, he's got a list like he's Green Arrow or something, like taking out like all these criminals. Basically, what they've done is turn Kraven the Hunter into Kraven the Punisher here.
Yeah.
He's kind of Dexter adjacent. He only kills bad people. Like, okay.
Well, yeah, I was actually thinking of the Punisher because I didn't dive into this area of the mythos, but when the foreigner's like, oh, he killed my mentor, and he holds up a copy, just happens to have a copy of the Daily Bugle with him, and it's like, what, Hunter kills Hitman or something? And I was like, well, who is that? Is that the Punisher? Who could that be? So I didn't go back into the Wikipedia to find that one out.
Yeah, that one's lost on me too. But oh, thank God we got the Daily Bugle in every one of these Sony fucking movies just to tie us in. Oh, don't forget, this is a Spider-Man movie, folks.
At least they didn't have Baby Spider-Man.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, this one felt the most in universe with those Andrew Garfields to me, as far as like, oh, there could be a Spider-Man in this universe.
Yeah, well, this one felt the most realized of any of them. It seemed to know where it stood in relation to the other movies and what it had to give. Whereas Venom, it seemed like, and I think from what I read, the producers were always like, this is standalone stuff. Yes, it kind of shares the universe, but not really. So I don't think they were ever looking to build anything on anything with those other movies. They were hoping with Morbius, but Jesus Christ, what a fiasco. And then Madam Web.
It is crazy how many of these movies they made. 3 Venom movies, Morbius, Madam Web, and Kraven the Hunter. And don't forget Spider Noir, the TV show.
Well, I'm looking forward to that, actually.
Sorry, Nicolas Cage.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it, but it's part of this. That's technically the last entry in all of this because that's coming out, I think, next year.
But that's part of Into the Spider-Verse.
Right.
Well, technically, so is this, isn't it?
No, but Into the Spider-Verse sort of stands outside of everything because all of the different franchises can be found within there. So that's kind of its own deal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't fucking know anymore. How's that? Given the MCU of it all.
Neither does Sony.
They want it all to be part of everything all the time. Like
they wanted their own universe where they kept all the profits, and they wanted Marvel to do all the work for them. I mean, that was the deal, right? Initially, they put up all the financing, and Marvel got 5% of the gross and kept the merchandising. And then in 2019, when they had to renegotiate, so Marvel wanted 50% of the gross, and that's when Sony was like, "Fuck you, we'll make our own Spider-Man movies now." And Tom Holland brought them back to the table. And then now what happens is Marvel pays for 25% of the production budget and takes 25% of the profit and has kept the merchandising rights.
It's pretty smart.
Foreigner's mentor might have been somebody named Chance, who ended up hooking up with the Black Cat. So, oh, wait, no, I take it back. Foreigner became romantically involved with the Black Cat. So, all these movies, we still don't have a Black Cat. Come on.
Well, that was Silver and Black. That was the one that got canceled.
Oh, right.
That was there was one that was Silver and Black was going to be the Silver Sable and Black Cat movie.
Mm.
And I don't think they ever. I'm not even sure they ever said who they were casting. I don't think it ever got that far. Maybe it did. I don't know. I never heard who they had cast, but that ended up going the way of the dodo as well. So
remember when they made a Cloak and Dagger? What was that? A TV show, right?
Remember when they made an Inhumans TV show?
Oh, yep. I sure remember that one.
And then they literally referenced it in fucking Doctor Strange of all things.
Yeah.
Remember that New Mutants movie?
I sure do.
My God.
Oof, man.
This is like that. This is in that same vein, right? It's just like it's a weird anomaly that stands out as its own thing when we're like look, I have my issues with the MCU, but for fuck's sake, this makes the problems that the MCU is having look minor comparatively.
Well, Mike, I agree with you, Mike. I'll go one further. I think this one actually could have fallen. If you were to tell me this was part of the MCU, I would kind of buy it and would wonder how they were going to tie it in. But, we've all got superhero fatigue these days. And the problem with it, the reason we have it, we're all fucking pointing our fingers at Marvel, but it's really because of fucking Sony releasing poor effort after poor effort, along with DC not knowing what the fuck they're doing over there. And on top of that, we had 20th Century Fox fucking shit up at least until 2012 or so.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, obviously we're going to burn out. They just keep giving us bullshit.
No, you're 100% right, because there were so many clunkers amongst all of those. I mean, DC, in the last 12, 15 years, it's been really fucking rough. Maybe the Suicide Squad is the one that I appreciate from that. And that's probably because of fucking James Gunn, where it just becomes a Guardians of the Galaxy on Earth type of thing. And yeah, I don't know. I could see this fitting into the regular MCU because I know Chris didn't like it, but I was of the opinion that this kind of fits with their style a lot more. And I could see now this Kraven, I would actually see him teaming up with Tom Holland rather than going against him. But yeah, I agree that this is more of a quality than Sony has given us in a long damn time when it comes to these. And yeah, way better than some of those fucking X-Men movies that they're doing for a while there. X-Men 2, one of the best, but X-Men 3, one of the worst. They just vacillated like crazy. It was like being throttled whenever you went to see one of those X-Men films.
I could see this being a Netflix thing. That's what I could see this being. To mention, like Father Malone, you already mentioned The Punisher. That was a Netflix thing. Technically part of the MCU. It's its own thing, but it's part of the MCU. There's a lot of violence and gore in that. I do not disagree with y'all in terms of this version of Kraven working in the MCU. I think he would work just fine, given that they have to figure out a way to make Deadpool work at this point. And I don't think that this character is any more or less hard to handle or get a wrangle on than Deadpool would be to put in the MCU. I don't think he's going to be in the MCU, but I also don't think that I don't think that they're going to do anything with Kraven in the MCU anyways.
It's going to be real awkward when the Scarlet Witch sees Kraven and is like, "You look just like my dead brother."
Right.
And it's going to be real awkward if we ever see Paul Giamatti in that mechanical suit, because Kraven's going to be like, "Didn't I fight you already? Weren't you a mutant before, or some sort of like genetic hybrid?"
And on his way to the afterlife, Nikolai Kravenov might run into Zeus.
Exactly. And be like, "You look just like Kraven's dad."
The stars were so many, they seem to overlap.
I guess my question to y'all is, given that this is the end of the Sony Spider-Verse, as it were, in terms of theatrical releases, and you've already kind of touched on it a little bit, Mike, like, is this in the top third? And if it is in the top third, is that just because everything else is so bad as well? Like, this movie didn't have very far to go to be better than everything else. Like, Madame Web is an affront to most cinematic good taste. The Venom movies, you're going to kind of, your mileage will vary. I would go as far as to say I think I enjoyed all of the Venom movies more than I enjoyed this movie. But for me, is this good on its own, or is it just good because everything else that we've seen up to this point has been so kind of mediocre to outright bad?
I liked it comparatively, and I liked it on its own.
Yeah, I think I'm there. I think I'm there with you. I mean, like I said, I can really see myself watching this again. I can see this going on to my wife's Plex playlist that she just repeats constantly and being like, "Okay, I'm all right with this." A lot more than things like you already mentioned Aaron Taylor Johnson in Godzilla. That one, oof, man, oh man, that's a rough one.
He for me is an actor that I'm just not super into, and what he does, it just kind of always falls flat. And when they announced that he was going to be Kraven, I was like, okay, like, all right, like, he's already played a character in the MCU. Like, we couldn't have found somebody else to play Kraven. And I mean, clearly the MCU has no interest in doing anything with Kraven. So that's probably for me the biggest shame, is that we may never get Kraven in the actual MCU the way he should, because to both of y'all's points, like, he's a pretty big part of the Spider-Man mythos. Like, he's a huge part of the Spider-Man mythos. He's constantly hunting Spider-Man. Like,
well, and his brother, the Chameleon, was the first villain in Spider-Man 1.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just like, it's almost like they kind of let the cat out of the bag. Like, they should have let the MCU do Kraven, just like they probably should have let the MCU do Venom. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but they're going to eventually. That's the thing. Eventually, Disney will just somehow get all the rights back, and then we'll get the other versions, including, I'm now looking forward to the MCU's version of Kraven, because we're going to get the fucking psychopath hunter who is all braggadocio and will hunt anything as just to prove that he can fucking do it, including villains, including heroes, including women, children. Who cares?
Yeah, I that's the thing, is like, I picture Venom as not Venom, Jesus. I picture Kraven as a much more bloodthirsty, crazy guy. And this one, I'm like, oh no, he seems like a pretty nice dude. And especially the way he's protecting the animals and stuff. I was like, oh yeah, if this guy is just all about taking down poachers, let's do it. I'm here for it.
And let's stop across the board. Do not tease a comic accurate outfit that you're going to show us for 2 seconds. Stop doing it. Because I tell you what, the entire time I kept thinking, like, when they announced that he was coming, I'm like, they're going to do a Kraven movie? Are they going to put him in that fucking vest? Because that could be weird. And then at the end of this movie, I'm like, yeah, I like it. Go. I want to see him running around in that shit.
Mm-hmm.
They did the same thing that Fox did with Wolverine. They were like, oh, it would look dumb. It's like, what? No. I mean, people popped like crazy in Deadpool Wolverine for when Wolverine put his, like, mask,
The yellow
on.
suit.
Yeah,
Yep.
people went ape shit for that. Like, hey, I'm sorry, but if you're gonna have him on your poster wearing it, you can't just show it in the last 30 seconds of the movie. That's pretty lame. Like, all the advertising has him in the iconic, lion vest, and it's like, oh, we're just gonna show him sitting in his throne at the end of the movie. Okay, like, I don't know, that felt so unearned, and the movie was like, see, he's Kraven now, and it's like, no, I don't think so.
I think it was totally earned. I'm just mad that they keep doing that in all the bullshit movies. And then when they finally get one right, I'm like, oh, now I don't ever get to see him do that. I don't ever see him running around and throwing a spear in the middle of New York City with the fucking lion vest on. Come on now.
Well, and
Yeah.
that's the thing. That's the thing. For me, I would have preferred it to be more accurate to the comic book. But again, then I guess you run into the issue of it looking and seeming silly, I guess.
Well, the thing is, the thing that all the fans were clamoring for, that Craven's most famous book occurred in the middle of the 1980s, and that's Craven's Last Hunt, where he has determined that he will go all out to kill Spider-Man. And he believes he does it. He buries Spider-Man in this like concrete coffin and buries him, obviously. And then, having completed his task, he goes and kills himself. And then that's the end of Kraven as a character. So I don't know why fans were hoping that would be this adaptation. It seems a little self-defeating. I mean, I want to see that story. And if they had known that this was going to be the last, then I would have suggested that they go for it. But clearly they thought they were going to continue. Nevertheless, that does leave the door open for the Marvel Universe to do that story. They could do Kraven as a one-off and have him be a villain who ends up killing himself. I'd be totally satisfied with that.
He killed Spider-Man? You mean Spider-Man's dead?
He is. For many years now.
Oh, wow. Is his clone still alive?
No, but we got Miles.
Yes, we do have Miles Morales. Thank goodness.
I think for me, with a movie like this and so many of these other non-MCU but Marvel things, they are fighting an uphill battle because the MCU, for the longest time, set the bar very high and was essentially like the high watermark of these kinds of things. Now that the MCU has kind of faltered a little bit and is kind of going back on the way that they've done things, I look at something like this and think to myself, like, okay, so you did this, you kind of just made this movie, it underperformed, you're not doing anything else with it. Like, why did we do this in the first place? It's just for the continuation of the rights. It's just to hold down like the rights, I'm assuming, is kind of what it seems like. Because again, nobody was clamoring for a Kraven movie, just like nobody was clamoring for a Aunt May movie that they had talked about making for the longest time. Remember, that was one of the things that they were like, we're going to make a movie about Aunt May, and it's like,
They did announce that, didn't they?
they sure did. Yeah,
Yeah.
they sure said that that's going to happen. It's like, who wanted that? And look, I mean, to your point, Father Malone, like, I would say in terms of villains, Batman has the best villains in DC, and I think Spider-Man has the best villains in Marvel. Like,
Is that right? Do you think so?
I think if he doesn't have the best, he's up near the top.
Yeah, I think you might be right. Spider-Man does have the most outrageous rogues gallery.
Yeah.
Although
Electro, Venom, Carnage, Scorpion, Kraven, Punisher, technically.
Dr. Octopus, the Green Goblin, the Hobgoblin.
Green Goblin alone. Like,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and the whole family.
Sandman.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The Fantastic Four has Doctor Doom, and they have their people, and, Wolverine and the X-Men have Magneto and their people. But, like, I think for me, when I think of Spider-Man, I think of Spider-Man's, like, the Sinister Six, like, his rogues gallery of villains reminds me of, like, the best of Batman's villains. And, like, to both of y'all's points, like, I don't think doing a Sinister Six thing was a bad idea. I think they probably should have just done that, though, as opposed to, like, trying to make this sideways universe its own thing, and then we'll make a Sinister Six movie, which is what I was assuming the plan was here in all this, was to make a movie that had Madame Web and Venom and Carnage and Morbius and Kraven and all them together in a movie. Like, that's what I'm assuming that this was eventually building towards. We are not getting that now, so we will never know what they were going for. But it, for me, is just, again, like, it almost feels like it failed in spite of the fact that it was trying to do something different from the MCU. But because the MCU has set the watermark so high, we all expect quality. And when it's this differential of quality between the two, you can't help but just look at this and go, like, why did we even make this? Like, why are we not just letting the MCU do this? Is my question.
What's crazy is that they all tried to ape the MCU, or tried to go so far in the other direction that it became unintelligible. Whereas they had a chance here, because they were locked into only doing villains, to tell an entirely different kind of comic book story on screen, that we could have gotten behind villainous behavior, or, you know, they could have made horror movies or, you know, thrillers with these. They could have gone in any direction they wanted, as far afield from what Marvel was doing as possible, and just make good movies of those, and it would have invigorated the genre. Instead, we just got carbon copies of carbon copies.
Yeah, I mean, remember the way that they shoehorned Vulture into the end of Morbius in that deleted scene? It also was very telling with this movie, you know, because I use that Run P app to see if there's extra scenes. No extra scenes in this movie. And I was like, oh, did they know that this was the end? I don't think they did, but it felt very odd that they weren't going to use those mid and post credits as any sort of setup for, you know, bringing back, I can't remember that actor's name, DeHaan, whatever the guy's name that played
Dane DeHaan.
Yes, the Green Goblin that looked like he was had an unfortunate disease.
Yeah, that's what we want from that character, certainly.
Right.
Look,
Yeah.
Either give us a goblin face or give us a helmet. Don't try and fuck around in between.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just looking at all the members of the Sinister Six and all of the different incarnations. It's pretty remarkable. But you're right, Chris. There are a lot of great villains for Spider-Man to go against. I mean, just looking at the later recruits, you know, with like Beetle and Shocker and Grim Reaper and Lizard and Living Brain. There's a ton of great people that he could go against at any time.
Evidently, Kraven was going to be the backup villain for Mysterio and Spider-Man Far From Home, but they were denied the right to use the character, ultimately. They tried to use him again some other time and were told they couldn't use him.
It still doesn't make any sense that they used Electro in that last Spider-Man movie, because he doesn't know who Peter Parker is, or doesn't know that Spider-Man is Peter Parker, at least according to their own fucking movie.
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of problems with the timelines in that movie and the melding of the different worlds. I think they did a pretty good job considering all of the different balls they had to get into the air, but yeah, a lot to be desired. Maybe work on that script another 6 months, another 2-3 passes.
Which seems to be a common refrain when we talk about these newer films, especially things like Beetlejuice, or some of the other ones that we've said, you waited this long, why didn't you wait just a little bit longer and make it better?
Yeah, they've waited 20, 30 years in some cases, and they're like, okay, and now here's the release date, go make the movie. Wait, what? Why? Like,
yeah.
Why is the money dependent on that date? What kind of outdated system are we is that the problem now? The system is just now fully broken where we can see all of the flaws, and you know, it gives me a bit of heart that or I feel a bit heartened in that James Gunn has been hammering over and over again, we're not starting the movie until the script is ready. That's great. Please do that. But make sure the script is actually good.
I will say though, now that this is over, yeah, like now that this is over, now that this Spider-Verse is done, where do they go from here? Does Sony just give the rights back to Marvel and say, here you go? Mea culpa, we fucked around and found out long enough. Maybe you guys can have the rights back and we'll just sell it to you for, you know, large sums of money like they should have just done long ago. As opposed to effectively getting egg on their face with like 6 movies. Like that's the thing I don't understand here. As much as I appreciate that y'all enjoyed this movie, broadly this movie is getting poorly reviewed. Broadly this movie is making no money. Broadly this movie is a failure in terms of box office, in terms of the financial side of it, just speaking financially, none of these movies have been successful other than the Venom movie. That's what I don't understand here. Like, the sunk cost fallacy is a thing. Stop putting more money into the fucking hole. At some point, like it's weird to me. Venom is a movie that I understand why it got 2 sequels. It got 2 sequels because it made money. I don't understand why they made Madame Web and Morbius and this movie, because they ultimately serve no purpose. Morbius goes nowhere, and frankly, all it does is kind of convolute the multiverse more. And Madame Web, I'm not sure what the point of that movie was, other than to pay for a home in Malibu for Dakota Johnson, I'm assuming, as if she needs the money, given that her parents are both insanely wealthy and also actors of note in their own right. I just don't understand what they were trying to accomplish here without Spider-Man. I think, to y'all's point, maybe it was maybe we'll get Spider-Man at some point and Marvel will play ball with us, and, we'll get the opportunity to use Spider-Man in our movies at some point. But like, yeah, you had to make good movies for Marvel to give you the opportunity to have Spider-Man, and they never did. And what's crazy to me is J.C. Chandor has made some pretty great movies. A Most Violent Year is quite good. Margin Call is quite good. Those are quite good movies. This is, like, for J.C. Chandor, this is a lesser movie in his filmography on top of everything else. But what's weird to me is I just don't understand why they kept making these movies when they saw that they weren't being successful. And to further point, if they saw they weren't being successful, why did they keep making them? Unless it was solely and purely to just be like, we want to keep the rights to this, and so we will.
You asked where Sony's going to go with this afterwards, and I think they're going to go back and hire Sam Raimi and have him do his 4th Spider-Man film with Tobey Maguire. I think that's a good opportunity. Otherwise, yeah, they might just hand it all back and be like, okay, it's Tom Holland from here on out until he decides to retire from this role, which would be a really bad thing. I think Robert Downey Jr. is kind of having buyer's remorse with his, like, oh, I'm not going to be Iron Man anymore, coming back and doing Doom. But at the same time, they probably had an army of dump trucks to just back up and pour some money on him, because I think they know just losing Downey, losing Chris Evans, like, those were major blows. They really shouldn't have been. I mean, a smart studio would have been able to pick up and carry on from there, but I think the lack of those 2 characters had really sent them in a tailspin.
They did too good of a job in making those characters compelling, and they didn't do a good enough job in making other characters compelling. Like, I know Father Malone's a huge fan of Captain America. I am a massive fan of some of the other characters in the MCU, but I'm fans of the MCU interpretations, not necessarily, like, the comic books and the movie interpretation of Ant-Man are vastly different. But, like, Iron Man and Captain America, very similar to the comic books, like, very much kind of what you would expect if you read the comic books, at least, of a certain time and a place. And, like, I think that there's some of the consistency that the MCU had was tied to the consistency of the actors involved. And I'm not saying that people are lesser or better than Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr., but Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. elevate the shit out of anything that they're in, almost just by the sheer fact of them being in it. Maybe not Doolittle, but, not everything can be, making you so much money you never have to work again and are only working because you want to, not because you have to.
I think it's kind of obvious they thought that they were going to be trading back and forth with Tom Holland, and that they were creating these characters, and then after a while, Tom Holland would be able to interact with their villains the way he was interacting with the regular MCU villains. So I think they just planned a whole bunch of movies just willy-nilly and put them into production without any sort of thought beyond that, figuring that when Tom Holland was involved, the Marvel people would be involved in one way or another, and their movies would be elevated. So I think that's why all of them are out there. I think going forward, I think you're right, Mike. I think we're going to get either another Andrew Garfield or another Tobey Maguire movie. And I think the way that's going to happen is they're going to multiverse Tom Holland over, to get us back into those movies, and that'll be like Marvel repaying their favor, if not an entire 3 or 2, like a duo of Spider-Man in a movie. I think that movie's on the way, and then I think we'll get like standalone either Peter Parker or Peter Parker.
The thing I like about the Spider-Man movies and the Spider-Man stories is that they're New York centric. I mean, yes, we've had him go like with Tom Holland going overseas and going to Washington, D.C. Like they're taking place outside of New York City, but I like that they're so New York centric and they're smaller stories that it doesn't have to be the world is going to be destroyed by a magical blue beam that shoots out of some place or beams down from some place. Like, save that stuff for the Avengers, and they do, and I think that's really smart. And I think that that's one of the problems I've been having more with the DC movies is that everything seems to be the world could end. Like Batman stories are smart, especially the Chris Nolan Batman, where it's like it's just taking place here in Gotham. It's not affecting the entire world. But then you get Superman, and those are like, oh, I'm going to destroy all of Metropolis plus 3/4 of the earth, it feels like. And he's spinning around, and that's Superman. He's a god. He can do whatever he wants. But Spider-Man's not a god. And I like that these are such smaller stories where it's like a person versus a villain or two. You get in trouble when it's 3, but a person versus a villain or 2 that he can defeat, but it takes a whole lot for him to do that.
Yeah, ultimately Spider-Man is a street level hero for Marvel.
Yeah.
And that's what we like about him. That's why we like Punisher. That's why we like Daredevil. We like these guys on the street doing minor work that regular people can't, but isn't necessarily the entire island of Manhattan is going to explode. And I think that's what everyone needs to start focusing on with these superhero movies is lower the stakes, make the stakes more personal somehow. That always works for me. And particularly that works in Spider-Man. That's what's always worked. Those are emotional stories about a young man and, the crazy world he lives in and his interpersonal relationships and stuff. So weirdly, they kind of carried that ethos here to the Kraven movie.
Yeah. Even though he was globe hopping quite a bit, like back and forth between Siberia and London a ton. But
and Ghana.
Yes.
They just didn't want Kraven to be a villain.
No, they want their heroes.
Yeah, they wanted him because they don't have Spider-Man.
Right. And I think by now they figured out we're not getting Spider-Man. He's not going to be interacting with our villains. Let's try and spin this and make it good. But it was too little too late.
And not only is it too little too late, at the end of the day, they should have put something in place to secure the opportunity to have Spider-Man long before they were like, we'll just wait and see. Like, and you fucked around and found out, like, big time.
Yeah.
Because again, like, that's why I go back to, like, they just kept making these movies and doubling and tripling and quadrupling down on them. And it's like, at what point are we just going to stop making these goddamn movies? Finally now, apparently. When again, I think to y'all's point, like, for as much as I didn't like Kraven, I will concede it's better than pretty much anything else I've seen in the Sonyverse other than the Venom movies, which are kind of their own thing, at least for me anyways.
Yeah, they just kept setting that plate, going around like, all right, everybody's got the rolls, everybody's got the salad, we're coming to the main course. Main course is coming up. Peter Parker was supposed to bring it. Where's this Peter Parker guy? No turkey on Thanksgiving. Sorry, guys. The whole meal is now ruined.
Well, and Peter Parker's usually good at those meals, so it's doubly damning.
And Aunt May will slap the Green Goblin's hand.
I'm excited for a new Raimi.
Yeah, from my mouth to God's ear, I hope.
Yeah,
that's what. Honest to God, that's what I hope too. I hope that they give him the opportunity to do a 4th movie the right way. And just do it. Like, who cares at this point? Like, people were clearly into Tobey Maguire coming back as Spider-Man. It wasn't just us, like, millennials and Gen Xers. Like, everybody was into it. So I just don't. I don't know why Sony doesn't want to play ball with Marvel. Like, shut the fuck up, give them the fucking rights, and let's just be done with it. You guys suck at making Spider-Man movies. You just do. Because you can't even make Spider-Man movies. That's why they suck at making Spider-Man movies, because they have yet to actually make a motherfucking Spider-Man movie. They've just been like, well, it's tangentially related, and we'll mention Spider-Man's name. Like, wow, that's fun. Does that embarrass you as much as I'm embarrassed for you? Because I'm embarrassed for Sony when they're like, haha, Spider-Man, get it? And it's like, oh, we know. We've heard of Spider-Man. Like, we're aware of Spider-Man, very clearly aware of Spider-Man. Thank you.
Are you aware of my boyfriend, Spider-Man? He lives in Canada.
So bizarre to me.
All right, let's wrap up this discussion of Kraven the Hunter by going around the room here. Father Malone, where can people hear more of you, sir?
Go over to Weirding Way Media, where you'll find my show Midnight Viewing, where these two gentlemen are co-hosts for our horror anthology podcast, where we're taking a look at Tales from the Dark Side. But Midnight Viewing is also a current show. I do a weekly roundup show, and there's also a show about anthology movies in general. That's all under the Midnight Viewing banner. I suggest you all go there.
Father Malone almost puts me to shame with the amount of work that he does, which is heads and tails above what Chris Stachiw does, which is clearly next to nothing. Chris, tell the fine people what you're working on these days.
Essentially nothing. I've been working on myself for the last 5 months, and I occasionally post audio diversions over at weirdingwaymedia.com, where you're probably listening to this. And if you aren't listening to it there, go to weirdingwaymedia.com and check out the 20 plus shows that we have on the network, including The Projection Booth, Midnight Viewing, 80s TV Ladies, whole host of things that you can find over at weirdingwaymedia.com. What about you, Mike?
Chris, you're being very falsely modest. Chris works on a ton of stuff, usually with me, sometimes with Father Malone, and sometimes on his own or with other folks. You can always check out some of the things that we work on, such as The Shabby Detective, yet another Columbo podcast, The Life and Times of Captain Barney Miller, as well as, yes, The Projection Booth, where Chris occasionally shows up. We just had him recently on an episode about Kamikaze 89, which was a lot of fun, and I'm excited for people to hear that one. So yeah, come on over to weirdingwaymedia.com to hear all that. Please make a donation. If you donate to my Patreon or Chris's Patreon, you can get at the $10 level and up, you can get copies of Rankin' on Bond, which is our monthly James Bond podcast. And Father Malone has a Patreon as well, which is patreon.com/Father
Malone.
Perfect. Makes a lot of sense to me. Thanks, guys, and thanks everybody for listening.
Do you love movies? So do I. What's up, y'all? It's KB, and I love movies, inviting you to listen to The Conversation, a film podcast where passion meets perspective and opinion. From the old school to the new, I invite a guest on to discuss the movies that thrill us, challenge us, break our hearts, or even blow our minds. There's always new episodes dropping wherever you get your podcasts. So join the conversation. We don't just watch movies. We love talking about them too. The Conversation with KB Loves Movies, a part of Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hello, this is Chris Haskell from They Live by Film. For those that don't know us, Adam, Zach, and I, we built a podcast over the last 2 years that's a combination of film discussion from 3 very different perspectives, as well as industry interviews with the leaders in boutique Blu-ray and 4K community. We started with Dev Crocodile, but over time we've been lucky enough to speak with Arrow Video, Severin, Mondo Macabro, Vinegar Syndrome, Radiance, Indicator, most of the OCN partner labels. It's been a blast. You can find us wherever you podcast, and also actually recently as part of Someone's Favorite Production podcast network. We hope to see you online.